Hello, BeyondMystic, and welcome to this deep woo-woo episode entitled Tarot Readings by Janine. You can find the lovely Janine at Sending Ravens here on YouTube and also at Tarot by Janine. Let's give her a big warm welcome. Janine, welcome back.
Hi, Jean-Claude. Hi, everybody.
How's it going, Janine?
Well, getting much better.
I saw an interesting video of you this weekend. You want to share that with the audience a little bit before we start?
Well, I thought it needed to be talked about. I wasn't looking for sympathy or anything. A lot of people wrote me after that and were really kind, though, and shared their experiences. But I thought, okay, I need to talk about this because everybody is in this position. If you're you know what, and with all those sleepers out there that are like, in absolute denial that we're even in a situation in the world here. Okay, they're not paying any attention. Those are a lot of people's families and friends.
Yeah.
So we needed to hear that reading I did. It's necessary to look at, how to navigate the holiday season.
And do you want to share for this audience, just maybe sum it up here in the next 2 minutes, what exactly happened and how, once we understand what exactly happened, then we can maybe navigate and ask some more cards here as to how to navigate it.
Yeah. So a favorite brother of mine came to town, and he's from the Haida Gwaii. He's been living there for many, many years. And so anyway, a dinner was put on by my parents, long story short, which I wasn't invited to, but everybody else was, or a whole bunch. Everybody who was this, right, double of this, was invited. Mm-hmm. And a whole swack of the family wasn't, okay? And myself included. Everybody knows that's my favorite brother. I know you're not supposed to have a favorite, but I got a favorite brother. We're thick as thieves. I used to he'd always come and sleep on my couch. The guy lived half his teenage, and he's my younger brother, and he lived a lot of his life on my couch. Okay, and he could have my couch anytime in the whole world. Like, I just love the guy. Anyway, I wasn't invited, and then I found out later, and it was ouch, because nobody there's one thing to, okay, we're not going to invite you because, like, letting me know ahead of time, but it was all a hush hush. And then I got, some other family member let the cat out of the bag, and that's how I found out about it. So it was ouch.
That fucking hurts. It's one thing to not be invited, but all this conspiracy, and you look like the fucking idiot. Like,
it was nasty. I was like, okay. And then all my childhood wounds came up that I thought I healed. It was, you're 60 years old. You think this wouldn't kick you in the butt like that. It totally did. So I had to work through all of these feelings. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this happened because I need to talk to my audience about this, because we're all going to be in some levels and already have experienced things like this. There's a lot of people in different cultures in the world that experience this because of their cultural situation. I have full-blooded Indigenous relatives, and I've lived on reserves in my life, and I've seen firsthand, and I know there's other kinds of people are prejudiced against all kinds of different reasons. So now we're all feeling like, as the human race now, all the truthers and people that watch videos like this, and people that are not, who are too evolved to get involved in the fear that's, been pumped out and everything. Now all of that group of people is experiencing being alienated out of their families. And wow, it is fascinating what we're learning here. It's just wild. And difficult for sure.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people who saw the video, they think like me too. And somebody just said here, hey, GC, the F-bombs are hard to listen to. I'm sorry, but when my friends are getting hurt, I get more emotional. And Janine's not just my friend, but she's like my sister to me. So listening to that video too, and going through those emotions with you too, because we're all living something similar to this right now too, and we're all protective of each other, and okay, I'll stop swearing, guys. But no, I mean, I'm just like, I get emotional too. I'm human too, and get over it. It's just a word. It's just a word. Like, and like somebody else says, you got to call it like it is. It is like it is. Yeah, that's very frustrating. Okay, so I said, okay, explain what the situation. maybe let's pull another card or two on this. I know you did in your video, but let's examine here. You asked how to navigate it from the person who's being ostracized. Let's ask the cards the other way around to send the message in the universe there for the people who would be doing the ostracizing this Christmas. What would universe tell them? Let's flip it around on them. And through this broadcast, broadcast, hopefully send that message through the waves to them, telepathically or however osmosis, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that most of their fears are not grounded in truth or reality. So they're literally in a it's a incredible weird relationship with the government and or the health system. Well, and actually deeper, the dark cult, the deep state, and then take it further, probably some kind of nefarious off-worlders puppeting those creeps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it feels like, first of all, like most of their worries and concerns, okay? And then do a little research about how dangerous is it in reality to actually have somebody over who's not had the you-know-what. Okay, is there actually a danger to you? Because, if you're actually looking at real science, there isn't, of course. Like, really? It's not dangerous? Okay, right? So have a little look into, and then, of course, that would lead them into finding out what really that thing is. And that it's not even being called the V word anymore, because it doesn't even fall in the category. It's not what people think. That might lead them into some truths, but that would be interesting. And then let people decide for themselves. Tell everybody who's coming. So independent, because she's a free and sovereign being. So tell everybody I have reservations. Here's my reservations. I love you guys, though. You're my family. I really want to have this gathering. So what does everybody else think? Throw it up for discussion, maybe. And let everybody know you have some concerns. What does everybody think? Let's talk about it. Instead of just going by mainstream media and not even consulting your learned and intelligent other members of your family, maybe even wondering why would they say no to it. So a whole piece of my family unit. Oh, by the way, the most healthy and successful bunch. Interesting. Okay, so we might not look successful to the outside. Okay, we don't have normie kind of jobs, but we're all the poets, psychics, intuitives, healers, and wise ones of the family. Okay, and we're all the most youthful, looking for our age. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
And healthy. Okay, every one of us that hasn't had the you-know-what. Okay, and we're not having the kind of problems a whole lot of those other guys are. Okay, interesting. And that includes financial. Like, it's weird. It's like, okay, so we're not going to listen to you, but we're going to listen to the government, the mainstream media, and the health system on this. Okay, okay, so it feels like actually put it up for discussion for everybody, so everybody could make a choice. Who's coming, and they can decide not to come if they don't want to fraternize with you-know-what, but to secretly have like as if, because it just feels too ouchy to be all sneaky about it.
Yeah. And like you said too about the old core wounds and childhood wounds and trauma. I mean, we're all traumatized. We all are.
Yeah.
Whether that's from our families, our governments, our politics, or everything. Like, and this type of honestly, when I listened to your video, and I'm harping on this, but to me, it felt like the B word. It's betrayal. Like, it's even worse than not inviting you. It's like the conniving in the back and all that too. It's betrayal.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, people are gonna laugh because I was like, wait, your favorite brother? Oh, I'm your other favorite brother from Ottawa. And I'm like, of course I'll come to your party and I'll give you big hugs. What are you talking about, Janine? Anyways, so I'm your other favorite.
You are. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm happy to be in that company. Absolutely. And honored to be in that company. All right. Well, hopefully that makes sense to the audience. If you guys haven't seen that video, you're not quite sure yet what we're talking about in the frequency, go check it out here on this was on Sending Ravens or Terror by Jean? Yeah, this one was on
Sending
Sending
Ravens,
Ravens. Yeah. All right. Janine, let's do a quick recap. Last week, somebody in the chat, I believe in the live chat, was asking about radiation. And I had trouble reading the whole phrase because I was worried about some of the censorship stuff. And we kind of pulled cards on the idea that perhaps there was a side effects to clearing some of the tunnels in British Columbia. So the flooding might be, we had already pulled the cards on. Some of this is man-made, some of this weather warfare we're living right now, and some of it might be being used right now to clear some of those deep underground bases. And people were asking us, hey, we were hearing reports that perhaps there's radiation attached to all that. We pulled some cards and we said, yeah, kind of, but it wasn't a really big resounding yes, the way the questioner had asked the question. And here we have this video, I think today or yesterday, where Jean Decode was kind of revisiting that subject. Do you want to maybe just quickly explain what you heard in the video? And then I'm going to ask you to pull some cards again on this, because there's still people here in my email too in the last 2 days asking about this radiation stuff, but it's still very much on topic.
Okay, so Jean Decode was warning Canadians that some of the dumbs in the areas that they have been complaining about radiation potential or issues, he was saying that they're powered. So the dumbs are actually powered by nuclear power. And so when they get cleaned out, it creates this issue where radiation gets released into the atmosphere around that area. And so and he gave some examples of ways you could combat that if that was coming up for you or you were anywhere near. He even gave ideas about what to get in your sort of toolkit or whatever at home in case something happened, and not just to wait for it to happen, but to actually be ready, because it's a big potential apparently. And it's interesting because Calgary's literally sitting on numerous dumbs. So it's like, ooh, okay. Yeah. And so we should look at, is there a fear of, like, has that already passed? Is that still going to be an issue? Like, because alarm bells have gone out, and we should look at it again and just see if those central and southern BC and then into Montana, do they need to be, like, do we need to warn them? And do they need these things that Jean Decode was talking about? It was on Nicholas Viniaman's channel.
Okay. So just to backtrack here too for the audience, I was trying to find some pictures. They're harder to find today, but maybe 10 or 20 years ago, you could still find pictures of some of these missing nuclear reactors that were being placed into these deep tunnels. These pictures do exist, and there was a log or a catalog of some of these disappearing back in the 60s and 70s to all throughout the 80s. At any rate, there is evidence to that some of these deep bases are run with that type of energy. And there's also some of these bases, the newer ones, being run on suitcase type devices of free energy. That's a whole other show. But okay, so let's go back in here. You already have a card spread out there. What do we need to know about the potential threats to maybe some of this radiation, if any?
Well, this is the Seven of Wands. It looks like it would be a really unique situation if there was. This doesn't look, it's not the most alarming card. Okay. And then this card was next to it. So I think you might have a little tiny issues here and there, because the Magician could be innuendo and tall tales. Okay, so a unique situation might have happened in some of those areas where they got a high reading, but there's no disaster cards here. And I think the good guys got it under control. So I'm sort of getting the same, I feel like it's like we got all these, this is my good military, this is my white hats kind of card. I think they got it under control. And then this is to do with how safe they are. We got this card. I don't think I feel like that's a potential, but I don't think it's actually going to become a problem. Okay.
Again, folks, we're just reading and interpreting the cards. That's it.
Yeah.
Do we want to bring up the issue of that reading you did last week and a few emails we got after the email about people not agreeing with your reading of the cards. Do we even want to bring that up? The reason I'm saying that is, seeing as we're redressing here, or
which one was that? I can't remember.
Oh, it was about the Twisted Sister alien T-shirt.
Oh, right.
Thing.
Yeah.
Do we even want to talk about that?
Well, I mean,
okay. Let me set it up. I think it's coming.
Yeah, set it up a little.
Let me bring it up. Okay, so last week, one of our Insider Access Pass members asked a question. It seemed to be a genuine question, and it could still very well be a genuine question. So here's the rub with all of that. The person was asking. He had this encounter with this ET, which is not unusual for this show. I mean, we answer these questions all the time, and the way Janine read the cards was that there seemed to be either an embellishment or wishing that to be, but she wasn't picking up on that encounter being real. And so she was reading the cards to that effect and stated as much. The next day, I got a few angry emails of people saying, oh, how could you belittle that person for asking the question? And first of all, it wasn't that person who was bitching about us reading the cards. It was somebody else. And I was like, okay, I understand. Maybe you were triggered by that. But at the same time, what do you want Janine to say? The contrary to what she's reading in her cards? Like, there's no room here for that. Because if Janine starts doing that and changing the way she reads the cards just to hold your emotions in check, then the whole show doesn't really exist after that. Do you see what I mean? Go ahead, Janine.
I thought I actually got the feeling when I read the cards that somebody was having a little fun with us. So if it sounded like I was belittling them, I wasn't. Wasn't on certainly purposely belittling. I was actually, the cards were saying that they were being tricksters, basically. So I just read it that way because that sometimes happens. You'll get people in card reading rooms who will come in with something that completely they believe, and my cards completely don't see it. And so I just have to read what I get. And if they don't like it, they go to another reader and get them to read it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the trickster energy, let's revisit that for the sake of the conversation since we're in here. And again, we're not attached to the outcome. Every question people ask us, we're not attached to the outcome other than being as true as possible to what the cards are presenting to us. Just so you know, that's how we do the show. So let's go back and revisit. You just mentioned the trickster energy. Is it possible, so I'm going to ask you to pull cards, is it possible that this ET influence or encounter that the gentleman was talking about, Russell something, I believe the name was, I'll bring it up in a second here. Is it possible that energy was a trickster energy, and that's what you were picking up on at first glance? And of course, these are quick 2-minute readings. They're not 1-hour readings where you get into details. So is it possible you were picking up on the trickster energy of the ET, or do you stand with your original reading that perhaps the person was imagining this encounter as opposed to it being real? I think that's fair to ask.
Temperance and the Lovers. Temperance and the Lovers. Interesting. And then the Sun. So it feels like, and this was in the past. So the person, I think they actually did have that experience, but they might have had it as a child or since childhood, that energy's been visiting them. And I feel like it could have been, some of the details could have got changed. So how they're seeing it and their perception of how it appeared to them could have changed. So that's fairly complex. But that's what I'm getting, because this card says, well, it's sort of half and half. So on one hand, so it sounds like a tricky energy, and that could be true. But also their perception could have been, they could have been tricked into seeing it in a certain way too. But they've been seeing, there has been visitation since their childhood. So that's interesting. Energy between the two of them, they could have a little playful thing going on between the two of them. So then I read it as, okay, this is a trick, or we're being tricked, or so if we might have had like a half an hour to look at the people come in and they book an hour or 45 minutes for a reading. Right. When I used to do readings, we could get to the bottom of it, but in a really quick layout. So it doesn't look entirely, it does look like it's a tricky situation, and it's not entirely true, the way it was presented. And if you remember the question, it was like someone was relaying it for someone else. So now we could have the issue of cards are fairly direct. So if you're asking for another person and you got some of the details wrong, maybe that's
no, I think it was the actual person asking about his experience. What we got the next day was another person saying that, okay, so the next day emails were not the same person, but it was the person in the Insider Access Pass, Russell Edwards, who was asking the question on behalf of himself. I believe I got that right. Guys, bear with us, man. We're live. Sometimes we don't get all the details right, but I believe that was the case. And that was interesting too, because of the Twisted Sister t-shirt. For me, when I saw the question, I was excited to ask you the question because I thought, oh, okay, the Twisted Sister brought this whole transgender agenda, first of all, to the screen again. So the ETs were making light of perhaps that event, so putting that in Russell's face that, hey, there's something happening here you need to look at. And there was a counterpart to that, which was that song, We're Not Gonna Take It Anymore. So I thought both of those themes were absolutely apropos. And it was interesting to see who this, or what perhaps this ET energy was and what it was trying to convey. So anyways, Russell Edwards, we weren't laughing at you. We had a good time with the questions, and then we read the cards as we were reading them and seeing them at the time. So I hope this clarification helps. And I know that at least it wasn't you who was sending us the email. At least I don't think so. It was some other person. So, okay, let's move on. Quantum healing. Elisa Herrera is asking a question in the live chat. Question: DeSantis' wife has cancer now. Did she get energetically attacked? Let's pull some cards on that one, Janine.
Is that Florida's governor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I believe it's breast cancer. I'm not sure, but I think I read that. I think it was breast cancer. So at any rate, Elisa's asking, was this person energetically attacked as payback for DeSantis, of course, not going with the narrative of the...
So this is in the past. So I think there's been a long, long process that led to that, her illness. I actually get, she does recover, according to this card, and there's going to be a big spiritual lesson in it. And so it's a personal thing for her to work through, and it's not because she was bad or someone did something bad to her. I actually feel like it's something her soul agreed to learn from. She has to get some energy balanced in herself, like most humans when they're in dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
They have to figure out a balance. Some part of her life has to balance. Okay, so it looks like a natural occurrence that is not
something having to do with her own soul and her own karma.
It was like kind of agreed to by her higher self to work through that and evolve from it, but not to take her. It's not meant to take her off the earth plane by what I'm getting here.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. This is interesting here too. The WEF forum was delayed because of death threats. Imagine that. Let's pick up some cards here. This, of course, is the famous. Where's the book? Do I have it here? I had it here the other day for you guys. I think Sarah borrowed it. But anyways, COVID, the Big Reset, and this, of course, Karl or Klaus Schwab. So death threats. Let's pick some cards. Death threats. It's been a long day, folks. Let's pick some cards here.
Didn't he get rounded up in that big sweep?
Well, last week he was supposedly arrested, and we had rumors that his lawyer was going to come out, do a specific statement. Now, I have not seen the follow-up to that, and I did take 2 or 3 days off myself here. So here we're seeing him supposedly, allegedly going to attend this conference, and now it's being delayed because of death threats. So let's have this card on face value. What's going on here?
That's a strategy because there's other things going on in the background that aren't made public yet. The world. No, that guy's rounded up. So they're making up stories until they're ready to, somebody's ready to come out and say what, well, hopefully what's really going on, or at least come up with the official story of why he's not going to be around for a while or ever, maybe. Yeah, he's up, and I don't even think they're giving him options to wiggle out of the trouble he's in.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is a message to his collaborators about the death threats. Maybe we already have him and we're coming for you. Is that what's maybe between the lines here for that part of the audience listening to this show?
I'm thinking.
Okay. Do we want to pull an extra card to see?
Yeah, hang on.
All right.
He's definitely facing some really big judgment, and I feel like he was turned in by people. So members of his, okay, so of course we know he's a bad guy. You just have to listen to what he says and read his book or books. I don't know if he has more than one, but yikes, right? But he was actual information was given about him by, I feel like, several people that used to be friends of his. So people are singing like canaries out there on each other. And he's rounded up. So now I can't remember what the question was. How did you ask that?
Well, I asked the question if this message about death threats is really the good guys signaling to his associates that they're on death's door. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. The tides just turned for that bunch.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
One thing that was cool in your reading this weekend also is that the people who are below right now are suddenly going to have the reversal. And that's also a theme in the Bible. In French, les derniers seront les premiers seront les derniers. Meaning if you were last, you would become first. And if you were first, you would become last. And this huge turning over of that wheel very fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a righteous energy, and that's demonic, obviously, and they just take turns going around and around.
Yep. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Connie Tate. Love this show. Thanks, JC and Janine. Hey, love you right back. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Really cool. Let me bring up somebody was asking about the PayPal to Jar. Let me bring that link back on the screen for you guys. A big thank you to all the PayPal to Jar donators you guys are using. Okay, let me bring that back up. Speaking of the Wheel of Fortune, being in on top and then suddenly not being on top. What the hell just happened to Mr. Jack? He's no longer CEO.
Yeah.
Let's ask the cards here. What the hell's going on? Is he rounded up? Is it a situation of meet the new boss, same as the old boss, same old, same old? It was just moving the chairs around on the Titanic, or is there more with respect to this particular individual here? What's going on?
Wow. He's facing a similar justice as Klaus. So I think he might have been part of that sweep too. We know there was a sweep and a whole bunch of people and lots of good intel coming out that right at the end of October into November, 10 days into November or something, or 10 days over the very end of October and the beginning of November, there was this huge sweep. I feel like we're starting to see the fallout because he's facing justice. He's in a scary situation that could lead to his demise.
Wow. Okay.
So he must be he must be in the club.
Okay. A lot of people came out already today, and I don't have the name of the replacement, saying that, yeah, the replacement is just as bad as him. So let's ask the cards, even though let's take that as face value, that the replacement is part of the dirty old club here. Is the replacement under tutelage or under control by the white hats? If I can put it that way. Or is this just one step to get maybe Twitter into control with removing Jack, but they're not all the way done yet? What are we looking at?
So the replacement doesn't seem to really, is not entirely clear about where they stand. They're not clearly initiated in the club, but they're not necessarily, so they're not really good for the humans either. So they got mixed up ideas, maybe because they were tutored by that bunch, you know what I mean? But they don't look absolutely in the club. They're still up in the air about it. They don't know even what they're, I even get they're naive. So there's this naive card in the past that brought them to their situation. So they threw somebody in there who doesn't really know the landscape, right? Yeah. Because the other guy got taken and is facing justice. I don't even know if that person knows, and if he would have taken the job, if he knew what the potential results could be. He's going to be very disappointed in his position, or be very disappointing right off the get-go. So, right. And then it feels like he might get taken, like now somebody might swoop in and school him on the good guy side. So there's a potential he could be worked with, but he's kind of naive and he doesn't really know what he's up against and what kind of mop up he has to do.
Wow. Wouldn't want to be him. Wow, that's a tough situation to be in. Yeah. Okay. Let's start here in Melbourne on the PayPal tip jar. Thank you so much, everyone. Melanie Jane Scott. Hi, team. Janine. Us Melbourneites, I guess. Would love to know more info about the extreme bill that is about to be passed by our Dick in Chief today, which gives him extreme powers. We'll just say that, just for the algos here. How long will it last, and what kind of effects will it have? Thank you so much. So essentially, the question is, there's a bill being produced or proposed here. I don't know. I haven't seen the bill in question, but the questioner is saying that this implies increased levels of power here for the government. So he wants to know where this is going.
So that is going to seal that guy's fate. That's part of that's a signal to the turnaround. So in the past, that was absolutely the plan of the bad guys. But you know what I think? The good guys have been puppeting those bad guys and made them take the plan out and speed it up. That's why it looks so outrageous. So they're trying to get through to the population who's been completely brainwashed by using the same techniques to kind of shock them into some kind of, getting out of their cognitive dissonance or whatever. That's what I think they've been doing. And it does look like it's going to work. So that doesn't look like this. People are going to reject it full on here. And they're already seeing, and I think that Australia has a lot of help right now from very wise old souls, off-world beings. They're being watched carefully and looked after, even though it looks really drastic, because they're going to need the help, because they're the ones, they're like at the front.
Right.
Yes. And I feel like everything that happens there has this, obviously a huge effect on the rest of the world. Of course, everything that happens in the U.S. politically also has that huge effect. But right now, the focus seems to be on Australia and what are they doing, and even New Zealand sort of as well lately. And then so it feels to me like that this is how they get rid of the government.
Okay.
Like this is going to flip everything. People are not. So they're not having it. It's too obvious. So I think it actually wakes a lot of even more people up.
If you see what's happening in Italy right now too, the protest has just gone like crazy new level here. So that could be what seals Australia's fate also here to get to the next level. Okay, difficult subjects to tackle here on YouTube. There's a few people in the live chat also asking about Ghislaine and her trial.
Right.
Okay, so Janine and I did produce an episode on this last week, and it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. So it was a weird episode. If you haven't seen it, please do go check it out. This was episode 32. maybe we can ask for an update here. Denise is asking, why isn't Ghislaine getting a military tribunal? You and I did focus on whether or not her trial would be made public in that last show, in the same way that the Rittenhouse trial was, broadcasted 24/7 in excruciating details. And the cards had picked up that eventually, yes, but there's still some weird, nebulous negotiating maybe happening, or a timing issue happening right now. Can we maybe pull the cards to see where are we on these huge divulgations here? Because just last week, the judge was saying, oh, this is too outrageous, we can't make it public. And most of the people are saying, yeah, please do make it public. So when are we going to see that?
Yeah. So they disputed a lot about should they have a secret tribunal for her? Should they? So that was in dispute for quite a while, it looks like. And then they decided that it was better for the people to actually have it somewhat public, because it was such a, like, don't forget, it was sort of pre-lockdowny kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. When the whole thing was already in motion before like lockdown and the big fake illness came upon us, right? Mm-hmm. So everything was already we were already talking about it 3 years ago, right? So like what's his name was rounded up by then. And yeah, I think most of what you're seeing is sort of movie related. I think they're just doing it for optics, is the feeling I'm getting. So that they think that the people desire the optic of it. So having her in a secret tribunal, I don't know. I think it wouldn't make as much sense.
Okay.
Since the whole thing was already in play, right? Years ago, even. Right? They were looking for her, and then they found her, and then, so it was already in play. So it wouldn't make any sense. So it's the part of the movie that's the secret tribunals, that part's sort of going on undercurrent, and it's just rumors and innuendo, according to a lot of people right now. Right. So that wouldn't make sense because she was already in play. So I guess just doesn't make sense to keep it secret.
Okay, I'll ask one more question from the live stream on this particular topic. Again, we're going to watch our words here, but all one is asking, JC, ask Janine if they released the last moronic thing, we'll just call it that for the inversion of the word, because of the trial, in order to maybe have 24/7 coverage of this new moronic thing, just so that we wouldn't look at what's happening at the trial. Or is there... Jenny and I are actually going to do a whole pay-per-view on this right after this show. So we're going to get into that moronic thing here very shortly. But let's just ask, was that part of that, or is there something else?
So the moronic thing was released by good guys, or like the fake story about it. And they're trying to get everybody to, find some truth, right? So you look at the words, you look at the last one and how it correlates to all of these words. Like they're clues, and it feels like a signal. And remember that last one that started with the D, did you guys notice it didn't, like, it really fizzled right out? Did you notice? Yeah. So it got a little play. This one's going to get even less play, I get. Yeah. So they're trying to alert. They're signaling to the bad guys something. They took their playbook and then they rewrote some things, and they're actually making these guys look moronic. Okay,
if you guys don't know what we're talking about, just watch the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, you'll have to. Yeah, because we can't say the thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, like they're just taking their stuff, running with it, and like sort of. Really making a big muck of it. They're making a big mess of it on purpose to make these guys look, come on, like that probably woke up a good portion of people, because it's so ridiculous. It's like, are you kidding me?
So moronic.
Apparently, Australia and New Zealand have been so locked down, and they're saying, oh, it's there now. Okay, how on earth did it get there? People are starting to go, what? Okay, how did it get there? That doesn't make any sense. And all of a sudden it came out, and they blamed it on South Africa. Right after South Africa refused any more, you know what,
Yeah,
from
imagine that. Oh,
the
okay.
big companies.
Okay, stop it, Janine. You're gonna get us in trouble. But yes, you're right on track. Okay, so yes, Janine and I are back to recording our shows here tonight. So folks, if you haven't seen this last episode of Janine and I, please go check it out. Episode number 32. 33 is coming up later tonight. Let's talk about the reason for the delays in some of our show. I'm seeing that in the Insider Access Pass and here in the live stream. We had a few delays on our special investigations. For those of you who haven't seen us, we've talked about this last week, but we had a few delays because energetically we're getting pushed back to not record the one on Walt Disney and to not record the other one also. So we're kind of following universal guidance. We think that there's something else in the field pressing that information, and we want to make sure that we're not out of sync with universe. That makes sense. So we did have a few delays on those special investigations. It's not to say they're canceled. We're going to fill that gap with other pay-per-views in the meantime, and we'll get to those episodes when it makes sense. Could be tomorrow, could be in 2 weeks from now. I don't know. So that's it for that. Now, on top of that, there were more delays of Janine and I recording and pushing out our pay-per-views because last week, Janine and I discovered that quite a few people were robbing us on our system. And so let me explain. So if we have, for example, 10 orders of a specific video, then we should see on the back end on our private server that 10 people watched the episode. Like one goes with the other. And in the extreme cases, we'd say, 20 people watched it, but it's in fact 10 people who watched it twice because the episode was so good, right? So that we account for that. And don't forget, Janine and I pay for the bandwidth on the private server. So it goes by how many views. And what we discovered last week was that in some cases for our videos, we had 18 times the number of views per purchase. So there's something absolutely going wrong. So either some were taking the passwords and the encryption codes and mirroring that on other sites and giving our products for free. When it's not free for us, we have to pay for the bandwidth. Or it's just on an individual basis that people are sharing this with all their friends and families. Well, that's caused quite a bit of a pickle to all of us, seeing as we have to pay for this private server and the bandwidth in the back end. So on Friday, I had to accelerate plans that were coming up basically next month, which was going to be a new way to watch pay-per-view without having episode passwords. So we did launch that in a hectic way kind of Friday to see if this could resolve all the theft that's happening in the background. And so I launched this episode here with Jim Willie under that new program. So you can see that once you've paid it, it comes right on the screen right here on the actual product page. So there's not another page with another password. As soon as you pay, as long as you're logged in, the video will appear here. And so just to explain also what happens there, you will get an email notification just like before, but you won't get a link and a password. It'll just say, hey, you've already paid this. Here's your proof of payment. And if you log in again, you can find those episodes on your dashboard. So if you log in, you go to your dashboard, previous orders, you will be able to find now all of your previous orders and watch them directly there without having to enter any other passwords. So yeah, so that caused more delays, guys. Because of all that, we weren't expecting to have to make that move. Very unfortunate that some people would do that to our content. I mean, Jenny and I have been fighting for the last 5-6 months trying to get YouTube to recognize all of these other people infringing on our copyright, monetizing our videos on other sites while demonetizing our videos on our own site. So that's just the nature of the war we're in. I was just quite surprised and dismayed that perhaps some of our audience members, and I'm not accusing anyone, might have engaged in that also, knowing that it's not a fair exchange of energy if you're taking from us as opposed to exchanging with us. What are your thoughts on all of this before I move on to the next point, Janine?
Wow. Yeah, I just think, yeah, whenever you got a system like, because that's a fairly new thing that we put up there, right? Mm-hmm. We haven't been doing it for too many months. And there's going to be, we're going to bump into stuff like this. And there's always somebody out there that's, not entirely on the up and up. So we're going to route them out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the guys are doing a forensic audit on the server level, and they're going to find the IPs of where all of this is coming from. And again, it could be that it's just bots. trying to do a denial of service attack like what we had a couple of months ago. But the techies at the beginning said, yeah, it could be that, but it's also people basically sharing their keys with a bunch of other people. That seems to be happening in the background. So it's unfortunate, but it's causing us some delays now because we have to put this other infrastructure in place so that doesn't happen. And again, we're doing this on that private server because we were having these issues with PayPal and with YouTube and all these things. And we're just doing the best we can to put out all of this content for you guys in an uncensored type of way. So a big thank you to everyone who support us and who share with us in the creation of these material. We really appreciate that. Okay, let me bring up this one here. This was interesting. El Salvador. Wait, hold on a second. I just lost my cue. Can we even say this one on screen tonight? Yeah, well, okay. Cliff High just last week or 2-3 days ago, I think it was the weekend, it was the Roo Woo video. He explained that something was about to change in the mainstream media where they would be forced to talk about things and do everything they can to not give you context of why they're having to talk about it. Here we go, 2 days later, we have an example of it. They have to talk about this sudden death syndrome, but of course, they're obfuscating the reason why there's sudden death syndrome. And of course, here they're just saying it's just a coincidence. There's nothing to see here, folks. Go away. So we're already seeing the mainstream now being forced to talk about reality and doing everything they can to not engage a conversation as to why this reality is creeping in. Let's ask the timeline on this one. Are we going to see in December, and it ties into a question in the live stream about how quickly are we going to see a win, and like an actual winning, like that we're winning? You and I see evidence of that every day, but for a lot of the normies, they're going to need to hang on to something a little bit bigger. So are we going to see more of these media casualties where they're stuck in the woo talking about reality, even though they don't want to? And is that going to in turn generate even more people waking up here in the month of December? Or do we have to wait to 2022 for that?
No, we're going to see it all through December. Yep. That's really good news with that. 9 of Cups is everybody stay visualizing and intending and assuming that could be true, because the wish card, when it comes up and when it would come up for clients, I'd always say, stay visualizing, because this is what attracts the thing. We could make that happen even bigger if we all believe that's possible and visualize that happening and just be as happy as, because it's your wish. If that's your wish and we continue to desire that, we'll attract it. So let's all take a few minutes after the show here and spend just a few minutes imagining how surprised and happy we are emotionally when the mainstream media is in that kind of a pickle. And it's so obvious and everybody's talking about it. Even the normies are like, what? Wow, I can't believe they said that. You know what I mean? I visualize things like that all the time. I got quite the imagination, and I'm always imagining what could be to the most positive and believing that's possible. And that really is part of our magic, you guys. Part of this whole thing that we're going through here together is to learn that we forgot that we're magical creatures and that we're powerful creatures. Why do you think we're so sought after and our energy so sought after? Why do you think they want to keep us in fear and self-loathing and all of the, because they don't want you to know that about yourself.
Yeah, very good point. Okay. There you go. Nice little heart on screen. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let me bring this one here. Somebody was asking me about this in a previous show here today too. So let me read that. I'll be careful in some of the words here. You guys can see the dramatic illustration of what we're talking about from 1941 to 2021. And this is a Zero Hedge article saying, hey, think carefully about accepting the paperwork requirements. The paperwork requirements get the tyrants or the people in control 75% of the way to where they want to be, and the CBDCs linked to such paperwork gets them the rest of the way. So let's get into this CBDC. You and I are about to record also tomorrow or Wednesday our next Beyond Crypto Woo report. So we're going to touch that there in more details. But for the audience here, you and I have been talking about how there's going to be this fight between the decentralized cryptocurrencies and now the introduction of the central bank issued digital currencies, the CBDCs, and how perhaps they're being tied now to this paperwork as an extra layer of control so that humans don't escape their grasp and their central warfare banking model into this human organic economy that we are now currently building. So my question is this accurate? Because I've been positing for a while here that paperwork had nothing to do with the illness, but it had to do with an extra measure of control so that they can attach to it your currency, your ability to put gas in your car, your ability to use the ATM if you're up to date with all of your compliance, so to speak. So are they in fact attached, the paperwork, with the introduction of the central bank issued digital currencies?
Okay, I think they wanted to be, but it got held up. So that was the plan, but it's been made impossible with that 10 of Wands. That's not going to happen anymore. But it was sitting right on the crossroads when that got intercepted by the good guys. So that was the plan.
Okay,
that was absolutely the plan, but it's not going to happen anymore because this 10 ends it. It's not going to go ahead, but it was the desire. That was the desire, and we'll be shown how we came really close to. I feel like we're all going to be shown those things.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what's interesting too, in the last Beyond Crypto Woo, you talked about these CBDCs and that there would be a play on the system as well, as the old system, which tried to promote itself, legislate people away from the decentralized coins and into their CBDCs. Some people who are more adept might be able to gain a lot from that system while they're attempting that play, even though it's going to break up, as you're just saying here, and meet its demise. But there's still a play there. Yeah. But high risk. This is not financial advice. If you're doing that, you better know what you're doing. Okay, that's very interesting. Somebody in the chat just said, hey, JC's all about the money. I like him, but he's always about the money. Oh, that's funny. I do 3-4 shows a day for free on YouTube. It far outweighs the little few episodes we put on pay-per-view so that Janine and I can pay our bills and, eat and, have a car and, pay for our kids' education and stuff like that. Just, I don't know about you guys, but thought I'd laugh about that a little bit. Yeah, some people. Okay. Janine, we're 52 minutes in. What do you want to do? We have 8 minutes. Do you want to take more questions from the audience?
Let's take the question from the audience.
Yeah, from the live?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me see if I can find anything else very quickly. And guys, if you have questions for the live, put them in high caps. There's 7,000 of you in here now, and it's very hard. Okay. Lady L, will Nasara, quote unquote, she's going to frame it as debt forgiveness, be public for everyone by end of year? And Carol just above was asking CBDC. So that's central bank issued digital currency. Carol, that's your answer. Okay, so let's go back to Lady L.
We're going to need a little more patience. That's been held up. So there's been a hold up there, but temporary setbacks. And yeah, even though it's disappointing, right? And this card says, yeah, it's coming though. It's coming. So I'm thinking within the first 2 months of next year, you'll see it across the board. I know that a lot of people see it just in sprinklings already.
In spring, what do you mean?
Well, because I had 3 credit cards wiped off my 5. I had 5. I have all these credit cards. And then 3 of them.
That's a lot of plastic, Jen.
Yeah. They were all just paid off. None of them had very big amounts, but, a couple grand each. And then I can't remember why I had that many. Can't remember. And but a lot of them I wasn't really using much. And anyway, 3 of them just disappeared, and so did the amounts I owed. And that was weird. And that was last sort of spring or summer.
Really?
And I told everybody about that.
Well, you're the first one who I know, like actually know, to report this, because I've heard other people say, "Oh, I have a friend and another person," but I have never heard of somebody actually say that. Wow, that's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah,
Here in Canada, do you mind saying, was that all with the same bank, different banks?
No,
or?
different banks, but two of them were the same.
Okay. Do you want to say
they
which
were?
bank?
Yeah, Capital Ones, two of them.
Oh, well, Capital One and another bank did close off a Canadian branch, and they just decided to wipe everything. That wasn't. I'm not sure if it's related, but it could be still related. Even though in the mainstream they didn't say it was related to any debt forgiveness, they said it was a business plan. It didn't make sense to them, and closing it was easier than having to recuperate the money or something to that effect. Okay,
but
that's just Capital One. What are the other two, if you want to
One
mention?
of them was a Bank of Montreal, so that's kind of weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think just as the banks are sorting out what they're going to do, because they all know about this, the higher ups in the bank, maybe not the everyday workers in the bank, may not, maybe they do, maybe they don't, varying degrees, but I know the higher ups know. And also when I went in and got a new account at a new bank, remember I was telling everybody about that?
Yep.
I asked the guy, I said, is this just Sarah and Nisara thing, blah, 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 blah. Is this any of that real, or is that fake? Is there a new financial system coming on the back channels? Like, what's going on? And I said, you don't have to say, just nod your head or shake your head, right? And he went, you bet.
Yeah, they know what's going on.
That's all he'd say.
Yeah. Wow, fascinating. A. Valden is saying, what is the woo? Well, you're in the right place to understand what is in the woo. Unconventional beliefs regarded as having little or no scientific basis, especially those relating to spirituality, mysticism, and alternative medicine. So we are in the woo, even though the system wants to place us in all of these boxes of solidity. We are in fact living in the woo. And what's happening right now is we are breaking away from the matrix of control and flowing back into our natural state, which is the woo that surrounds us. So great question. And thank you for joining us if you're new to this channel. Maria says, JC, don't read the negative comments. You're so much more than those words. You're amazing. Well, thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. I'm not reading them to feel sorry for myself. I'm reading them because I realized that, like A. Valden, there's new people come to the show and they might say, what JC's all about the money? Well, that's not fair, right? It's out of context. So once in a while, I kind of want to address it because I know it's an issue for a lot of people. This money thing makes some people get weird when it comes to money. And it's funny because somebody said, oh, well, this is valuable information. It should be free for everyone. Well, sure. But having a functioning toilet should also be free for everyone. Does that mean that every plumber has to work for free just because everybody needs a functional toilet? Do you see? All right. So that argument to me was like, well, yeah, but you know, it's like you, Janine, you went to all these parties. Well, she's a tarot reader. She should do this for free. Well,
yeah. It's like, no, I was feeding my family and myself. It's all of our gifts. If we're doing things properly here on the earth plane, like, and most people don't, they go get a job because it makes them money. Okay. I never did that in my whole life. I did my I like work, but my spiritual work, but I did it like daily, 6 or 7 days, sometimes 7 days a week, because I was supporting, one child and then another. So they were 12 years apart, but it was like having sort of two groups, two families. It was weird. But anyway, so the thing about that is, so you're doing that daily. You studied. I studied for years with the teacher the whole time I was bartending and waitressing. And then I started doing it. And when I gave up bartending and waitressing, I just had to literally pray, visualize, intend. I learned how to draw to me and use my visualization. I started out praying and then I realized, no, I'm going to it's like my soul taught me how to visualize people coming in and, oh, they need a reading and they see my sign. I would light up my sign with my intentions and somebody would notice it. And then, oh, they'd come in off the street. I was reading out of the New Age books and I was lucky to get maybe 2 readings a day. And back then they were $35 a reading. Wow. Right. So, I made $70 that day. And I had to pay, by the way, so 18% or something to the store, whatever.
Wow.
But then I'd go home with some cash and I'd be all happy.
Yeah.
For years, I built up my clientele, and no, I wouldn't do it for free. That's absurd. So you don't get any of my talent. If I got to do it for free, okay, I got to get a day job, and I'm going to be too tired to do my real work. Your work is given to you so you can live on this earth plane the way it's set up. And maybe it'll be set up different in the future, but the way it was set up while I was coming up, okay, we needed money to live. Okay, so it's exchange of energy. So somebody's working all day, they have no energy to give you their healing energy or their wisdom. Okay, so that if you're doing it as your daily work, you obviously need to be exchanged energy for it. And by the way, if you give out readings for free, nobody takes them seriously. And anything you give out for free is never respected, by the way. Just saying.
Just saying.
I mean? Yeah, anytime I ever gave out a free reading, the person usually didn't think too highly of it or respect it. It's human nature. Yeah. Humans need to exchange energy. Someone spends years learning something, lifetimes of built up intelligence to be able to read you, okay, and understand how the spirit world works. So they spent lifetimes of their own personal work getting there. Then they share it with you. Then you exchange some energy. And if that happens to be cash, that's what it is. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you got to trade your energy to get energy. That's how it works.
Yeah. While we're at it, there was another comment in there. Well, you're gouging us. It's $1.99 per episode.
$1.99 is not a gouge.
PayPal is gouging us. 37 cents of that right away is off the top goes to PayPal. That's before taxes. We're talking about pennies for Janine, so we're gouging at pennies. Okay, I appreciate that. All right, Elaine is asking you, Janine, please clarify what you mean by off-worlders. Okay, Elaine, welcome to the show. Janine, off-worlders. What do you specifically mean about off-worlders?
Well, because I don't intuit exactly their names, so I don't know if they're Pleiadians. All these other people seem to have all this intelligence about who the off-worlders are, but I don't. So I'm never going to just say something if I didn't get it. The cards don't really give you names, so I don't really get. And if I didn't intuit a name for them, I don't really have a name for them. I mean, I get that wise old soul hermit, and I always get there's a wise group that's absolutely guiding the alliance, and even is a big part of it, and / white hats. You know, I mean, but when I say alliance, I mean the white hats, and I mean they interchange for me. Okay, some people prefer the word alliance, some people prefer white hats. It's a bit corny, the white hats, but whatever. And so there's this wise old entity, but I don't have a name for it. So I'm not going to just put a name on it like I know what I'm talking about, because I wouldn't know what to call them. And until they tell me, I'm not going to say a name to them. So they're the entities that don't feel like they are like absolutely earth humans. They're off-worlders.
And do you also leave the possibility that in the off-worlders category, there are also humans who are now a break away from the other civilizations?
Absolutely.
Okay. Very
Absolutely. Good. They could even be us in the future. Like, who knows? Like, I don't know. And until I'm told, like, I'm not going to say more than I get. So that's just how I do it.
Okay. Very good. That's fair. And thank you for that question. Again, a lot of new people coming to the woo. And sometimes we have to revisit some of these, the nomenclature. It is a new nomenclature for a lot of you. Flying Unicorn in the Insider Access Pass. All about the money, question marks. Your shows are so affordable. People shouldn't be so cheap. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Of course, this is coming from the Insider Access Pass members who paid for the annual pass. So a big thank you to all of you guys. You guys are amazing. So let me pick a question here. I keep forgetting you guys. Thank you so much. So question here. From the Insider Access Pass. Okay, question. I was attacked by a dark entity coming at me with a weapon during my dream state. I wasn't afraid and made my light shine brightly because I knew darkness could not exist in light. Who was attacking me?
They absolutely were attacked by a dark entity. And I wonder if they felt that frozen energy where you freeze and you can't move. Even in dream time, that you're kind of like captured somehow energetically, right? When you like you know, you're sort of like a waking dream, but you can't move or blink or get up or anything. It feels like that might have been part of it. Past life. Okay, you were in a dark entity family in a past life. So that was a family member from a past life. So somehow they were karmically attached to you from this other lifetime you spent in I think dark cult family is how we call it. There's other words for it. So if you're new here, I know it sounds corny to say dark cult, but we mean that C word we can't say here, and or illume kind of word that we can't say here. So families of the 13 bloodline families, look it up online if you don't know what I'm talking about.
So this person was connected to that in a past life.
A past life. So that entity was karmically attached, is karmically attached. So and feels like almost like they still want their energy. So what you want to do with, so it's not a good, so this isn't always good. Like the soulmate card means you have past lives together and you got to work it out. Like I've met several people this lifetime who were my past life slave masters. Okay. Not fun, but you got to work it out. And I had a really, really good girlfriend who I worked with in other lifetimes. I was beholden to them, and they were always sort of owned me or something. And then this lifetime, we had to work through that energetically and became really good friends. But there were some hard spots there because we got into the same old pattern where I was doing everything for them and I was beneath them and didn't feel, and it wasn't their fault. It was my patterns. So you get into these relationships sometimes, but this entity doesn't live on the earth plane alive. So they're coming to them in dream time. So you're going to want to do some energy, cut some tie energy there. You might want to get some healing work, get a healer involved, somebody you trust, and cut some first chakra ties there with that entity.
Wow. Fascinating. Yeah. Well, to that questioner, if that makes sense, I know you have my email, so send me an email. I'm curious to see what you think about that response. And I'll send a copy of that to Janine. That person is not new to this subject matter, Janine, so very well versed in what you just said. I'll be curious to see your answer. Okay. Kathy Awa, she's asking, Cyber Monday membership discount 50%. Maybe. I was going to do a thing. I'm like, oh no, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I don't want to have my energy attached to any of that. So Jenny and I will be putting out a new discount here very shortly. But for now, we still have our coupon code, Stay Connected, which of course is still valid. We keep extending it. So that'll give you at least 10% off here of the Insider Access Pass membership. But we might do something special here as we move in closer to the holiday break here, but I didn't feel right to go to the cyber thing and the Black Monday. I just didn't want to be attached to that energy, but I appreciate the sentiment. We'll do something for you guys for sure. Okay. Last question. Okay. Let's do this one. Nancy was asking, what is the supposed rift between Linwood and, right. So, can we even get into that here too? Because this was also something that Cliff Hayek said. At some point, the media will have to talk about it. They'll talk about the riff, but they won't talk about why these guys are having the riff because they can't and absolutely not get into that subject matter. So we're getting into this weird time here where the media is going to be very sticky in the woo here. So,
well, I don't know if Cliff Hayek and I have the same opinion about that, but I've looked into it, and it's a big false thing. They're making it up, and it's they're trying. So what I got on today's Tarot by Janine, I did a zodiac spread on the alliance, and they want to look weak. So they want the T team, Mr. T, to look weak because he's don't forget he's part of that alliance. So all those people are big people in the alliance, okay, and they're making them look dysfunctional and weak. That was their desire. So if you go watch the latest Tarot by Janine, I get really into it.
Okay, interesting. So there you go, folks. You can do some, and I don't think Cliff pronounced either way. He just said that, yeah, there's something weird happening. Whatever it is, though, And even as you say, if it's made up between for a specific strategic reason, the media can't get into it because it opens the bag and a whole bunch of other stuff they absolutely don't want us to talk about or even contemplate.
Like the world's a big movie right now.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, man, we already did some overtime. We're done for tonight. And we have another show to record. So big thank you to everyone watching this show. You guys are absolutely amazing. In the meantime, please do go and subscribe here to Tarot by Janine on YouTube and also here at Ascending Ravens. And if you're watching on Ascending Ravens here tonight, please come over to Jean-Claude at BeyondMystic 3 as we are trying to rebuild this community here for the third time. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This was Tarot Reading by Janine, and we'll see you again Wednesday night for a live show. But tomorrow, don't forget, at 4 p.m. Eastern, we have Secrets Reveal with Bryce and Janine. And tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, Tamara's coming back. So big blockbuster shows for you tomorrow back to back. So stay tuned for that. And have a great night, everyone. I love you. Au revoir.
Au revoir.